Hi, this is Ajay, your host at Ever Coach, and today I have a very special online workshop for you. It's a very special topic, it's a very special guest, and it's a very special detailed workshop that I think you'll get a lot from. Firstly, have you ever been in a place where you walk in and you start working with the client and you kind of feel like out of place? You don't know how to really get them to go to a result. What if I told you there was a way that you could walk into a coaching conversation, an enrollment conversation, and can quickly understand where your client is at, why are they operating the way they're operating, what is the place they might be at, and to be able to take them from the place they are at to the place they want to go. What if I could tell you that the enrollment conversations that you have with your clients can become a lot more easier if you understand how your clients are taking in information, processing that information, and really making decisions? What if we could understand what to do so that we can create greater impact with our clients to be able to change their stories faster, more effectively? All of that and much more is going to be revealed to you in this online workshop. I've got a very special guest who has been researching on this topic for several years at this point. I'm going to introduce you to her in just a second. But before I introduce you to her, I want to make sure that you're fully ready to take in all the great knowledge, information, and insight that is coming to you from this wonderful human being. And for that, I want to make sure that you have kind of identified where you are at in your journey. Because you see, if you know where you are at in your journey, you're able to craft the path that will take you to the next stage of your life. If you know where you are in your coaching journey, if you know where you are in your enrollment journey, you will be able to go, oh, okay, that's where I'm at. Where do I need to go? And you'll be able to effectively learn and look for the insights that will take you to the next level. Now, for that, I have 3 questions for you. All right, so take out your workbook. If you haven't, it's okay. Just listen to the questions, write down on a piece of paper so you can actually answer these questions. So the first question is, if you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as a coach? Go ahead and write that down. As a coach, as somebody who can influence your clients and be able to bring insights and results to your clients, how would you rate yourself? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, how would you rate yourself as a coach? All right, my second question to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself in understanding what your clients truly want and truly need? Go ahead and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 again, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. How do you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on understanding what do your clients really need? My last question to you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself in your ability to be able to influence your clients. This influence could be for enrollment, this influence could be for being able to draw an insight, this influence could be to be able to get referrals from your clients. Whatever influence that is in context of enrollment or coaching, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on your ability to be able to influence your clients. 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Go ahead and rate yourself. Now, usually when I ask this question to coaches, they end up rating themselves between 5 and 7. And the reason why that happens is because a lot of us are taught that you just need to practice. You just need to practice, right? But we also know that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So what has happened in the reality of the coaching world is we're just driven to say, oh, let's coach, let's coach, let's coach. But we're not really thinking, how do we coach? What do we coach on? How and why do people do what they do? If we can understand why people do what they do, we can truly influence them and inspire change in them. And that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to see how you can, as soon as you talk to somebody, as soon as you start getting into that interaction, as soon as you're starting coaching someone while you're having an enrollment conversation, how to spot what type of personality are you talking to, how to influence that type of personality, what are some of the key characteristics and traits that are in that personality. We're going to learn if they are the right type of clients you even want to enroll. Now, we're going to learn all of that great stuff in just a minute, but let me tell you how I actually got to know this person. This person is very special to me. First of all, this person is the author of 2 books in like a year and a half or something like that. She wrote the best-selling book, Emotional Grit, and then she co-authored the book of coaching with me. Right? I'm going to introduce you to her in just a second, but how I met her was very interesting. I was leading Ever Coach. It was a new CEO. We had just started the company, and I was just really like in a mode of going for it. I was really trying to build this fantastic business that would help people, coaches, teachers, educators, to further influence other people in the world. So it was a positive force. It was a positive force of change. But at the same point of time, while creating all of that, somewhere in that journey, and I'm sure you'll relate to that, while I was trying to create a great influential business for others, I had forgotten to take care of myself. I'd forgotten that the one key thing of great businesses is to be a great leader. One key thing of creating something powerful is to be really powerful. This human being came into my life, and we were just having a conversation one of the days. I didn't know much about her at that time. I didn't know she was writing a book and so forth, but we had met for dinner and we were just talking about stuff, and I was just sharing my realities with her, and she started to challenge me. And I was like, who's this girl? Like, I was so closed off that you would feel intimidated and you'll be like, let's not challenge this guy, right? So I was in that place, and this girl would challenge me, and I was like, who's this girl? Why is she challenging me? What is she talking about, right? And that conversation continued over several days. We continued to talk about things. I continued to explore. I was getting uncomfortable, and then I was getting comfortable, and then I was getting uncomfortable and getting comfortable. But what was coming up for me were things that I hadn't explored in a long time. And I hadn't really considered, if I may, in a long time. I hadn't really understood what was happening pretty much at any time. And I was just operating from what I thought was right without actually understanding why I was doing what I was doing. Where was the background that it was coming from? What was it about me that was leading me to be the way I was? And I wasn't necessarily a bad leader, but I wasn't an inspired leader. I wasn't a powerful leader. I wasn't a leader that my team just absolutely loved. Now I'm fortunate that I can say that my team loves me and I love them, and I'm sure they're going to watch this video, so I love you guys. You already know that. But that could happen because of this human being coming into my life, and really from starting as just being somebody who's getting interviewed by this human being who has interviewed hundreds of leaders, to really being influenced and rediscovering my leadership style, rediscovering how I show up as a human being in the world, what my values are in the real world, and how do I really represent them. And yes, I want to inspire positive change, but how can I be a positive change as well? So I'm eternally grateful for this human being to show up in my life at that time. And I'm not the only person. Like, as I got to know this person, I realized she has been able to do this again and again and again. And that's because she has been somebody who has studied human beings so deeply, and you'll know about that study in just a minute, but she could walk into a conversation and be able to identify where somebody is at, really be able to have a conversation that will move that person from the place they're at to the place they need to be. I remember the story of this, and for the sake of this interview, we're just going to change the names of these people for respecting their privacy. But I know Sam, who is her client right now, and Sam started out with her as a really successful entrepreneur who had gone into an accident and got into depression because of that. He had been someone who used to be a positive force and had lost it all to some degree, and as he started working with this human being. And as she was working with her, as she understood why it was happening for him, recently when I met this same human being, he was finishing off his book and he was all inspired. He was saying his life has transformed and he's a new human being, and he was so full of joy and so full of love for the world. From a place of depression and the place of sadness, he'd moved to that stage. There's another human being that I also happen to know. Let's call her Jackie for the sake of this conversation. And Jackie was somebody who, one of those entrepreneurs, and I know you might identify yourself with some of you might identify yourselves with this person, but the person that has 200 different ideas working at the same time. You know that guy or that girl, right? That 200 ideas is like this idea, there's a new idea, and a new idea, and a new idea. And then at the end of the day, you are so exhausted and you're so tired and you're so bummed that none of them got executed, right? That was this entrepreneur. You can identify with that person, right? That girl, that guy, it could be you, right? Who has got like all these different ideas and you want to pursue them, and you're just kind of like being tired and overwhelmed and like, why the hell am I not really going to the finishing line, right? And that was Jackie. Jackie's reality was the same. And this person my coach, my partner, and the person that you're just about to meet, met this person, identified this person as that person who has so many moving targets all the time, that it is exhausting the heck out of her. And so she helped her really navigate, really understand why that was happening, because she could understand where she was coming from, and really be able to get her to structure it in a way where, yes, she still has 200 different ideas, but she can stick to one and execute, and then go to the next one and stick to that and then execute, because now now Jackie knows how to really navigate herself, right? And that's powerful if we can help that with our clients, because you have created a true transformation with somebody who is powerful, and that's why they could do 200 items. Check yourself. But you could actually, if you could just focus all that amazing energy into one item at a time, if you could find that power, because you could work with your client to find that power, and with yourself, boom, game changer, right? And then, of course, there's Sheila. Sheila was a doctor, an overworked doctor, like all doctors are, like running hours for dollars type of situation, just going at it, working in a setup which was just exhausting and tiring and was draining all the energy. She wasn't able to really give time to family, and she was in this place where she couldn't get past the fear of losing it all. And that's why she kept running on that grind. She kept running on that treadmill until she started to work with this person that I'm just about to introduce you to, who helped her really understand how irrational her fear was, and how she was a powerful human being, and really truly understand her personality and where those fears and beliefs are coming from, and really be able to navigate to get Sheila to now be a coach to mothers. Actually, she from being a doctor became a coach. So this human being has not only influenced my life, but she has influenced lives of many, many other who are eternally grateful to her. At the end of this class, you will have the same abilities. You will be able to spot what are the desires that your clients may have. You will be able to spot why they are operating the way they are operating. You will be able to spot how are they taking information, how they're processing information. You will be able to spot what are the different types of human beings that you will interact in the world most commonly, and how to really navigate. What are some of the characteristics? How to really identify, oh, that's that person. Oh, that's that person. And how do you really work with them once you have identified them, right? So think about all the power that you might have in the next coaching conversation, because you show up knowing, just in a few questions, you can know where they are at and be able to navigate with them, because now you know exactly what's their driving force and how do you really move them to a more successful outcome. Think about the enrollment conversations that you're going to have. You can now go into an enrollment conversation going, I know who I'm speaking to right now, because you know their type, their personality type. And you can go, okay, so this is the person I'm talking to. How do I navigate them towards a conversation that might be impactful or get them a result, so then they can enroll with you? If in your mind you're going, human beings are really diverse, how can you categorize someone? How can you know how somebody will operate? Well, think about it like this. We might be different, and yes, everybody is very, very different, but everybody has patterns. We have patterns that we operate from. Those patterns have been studied over decades and decades and decades of research. They've been researched by psychologists, they have researched by philosophers, they've been researched again and again and again to come to certain personality types, certain personality traits, certain ways we take information, process information, and communicate information, and all of that influences and gives us patterns that we can operate from and be able to really change the dimension of working with another human being. So yes, everybody is different, but we do have patterns. Those patterns gives us insight into how to really coach them, how to enroll them, how to create a powerful conversations with them. So with that, let me invite my guest to help you with that perfect practice, so she can help you to really engage in conversations and powerful, powerful outcomes and long-term clients for yourself. With that, let me invite my guest today, Dr. Neeta Bhushan.
Hello, baby. I'm so excited to be here.
I am very excited to interview my own wife.
I think
so they don't know, but they probably should know at this point, is Neeta also did go on from my coach to actually my partner this year. So I'm very excited to have you on this call, and thank you for being an inspiration in my life and transforming me from the leader I was to the leader I am, and being my support and also being a constant education to be with. Thank you. And I'm very excited to introduce you to my lovely family at EverCoach.
Hi everyone. We're going to have a lot of fun today. You just kind of made me blush in so many different ways. I think if I was still in the medical field, I would probably say that that's like a breach of patient privacy or HIPAA or something like that. But luckily we're not there anymore, so this is good.
Luckily, otherwise I probably won't be able to score this. So, with that being said, let's get the focus back into the conversation that we have, and we've had so many conversations around understanding human beings, and you've been so insightful in creating that understanding for myself. And today, what I really want to discuss was some of the things that we discussed around the area of creating or understanding human beings really, really deeply. But before we get there, I know your study just didn't start because one day you woke up and said, I'll study human beings. It comes from a very interesting background, if for lack of any other word right now. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Wow, what a powerful introduction. Thank you, love. I really, really appreciate that. And of course, we've been going back and forth for so long, so I'm super excited to have this conversation with everybody at EverCoach as well, because I think that, you know, my fascination with human dynamics and human emotion started, you know, when I was really, really young. I mean, and we've talked about this so much, but being Filipino and Indian and growing up multicultural as a first generation from, you know, immigrant parents, the idea, and of course growing up in Chicago, you know, the Midwest, the idea of this American dream was what my parents wanted so bad for my younger brothers and I. And, you know, I was the eldest of you know, three of us. There were three of us. And so I think that my journey with human emotion began when I was about, when I was 10 years old. I became a caretaker. I became a caretaker to my mother. And, you know, for a traditional Indian father, having my mom fall sick and she had breast cancer, and then to watch her kind of, you know, go through the emotions of, you know, being sick with this disease for about 6 years of my adolescence was not only challenging, but it put a lot of pressure on me as the only other female, you know, in the house, to not only take care of family, to take care of my two younger brothers, but also to take care of my father. You know, I was a caretaker. I was 10 years old only. So as some of the things that I learned early on was, okay, how can I actually take, you know, the sadness and the stress of my father, who was kind of like the single parent, as my mom was. I mean, we spent our weekends, we spent our nights, we spent days, you know, at the hospital for years. This would go on for years until my mom actually she passed away. You know, the cancer kind of spread throughout her body, you know, but passed away when I was 16. I remember, you know, getting my driver's license. And I was praying so hard when my mom was like, you know, she had her tubes in her, you know, throughout her body, and she was living in, you know, we call it the intensive care unit. And so I know all of the areas of the hospital so well, because it was so vivid growing up. My brothers were very young at the time. My youngest brother was 10, and then my brother DJ was about 15. And so that was almost a turning point, because I knew that as my mom was literally dying in the ICU with tubes in her mouth, and she couldn't really say anything. The only thing that we could do was make her laugh. And so understanding, okay, putting us in, you know, really awkward, obnoxious situations, and, you know, being funny and goofy and quirky was the only thing that I knew at that young age to do to change the state for my dad, to make sure that he wasn't really falling into, you know, depression, because it was so visceral in our worlds. And, you know, we lost my mom that year, but it wasn't only that. It was also, and that was like the big turning point, But then a year later, as we were kind of healing as a family, and of course then I became the lead mom of the house, taking care of my 2 younger brothers and my father, doing household work, working 2 jobs, trying to really keep things going amidst this Asian, Indian, Filipino household. There's so many things and so many layers and so many dynamics. As coaches, of course, you guys would all understand this. There's so many complexities, but really for me it was being able to, okay, and I'm wearing my fancy hat today because I've got the superhero personality that I have on for everybody. But that's what I was. At 16 I was like the superhero. I had to have my Wonder Woman cape on. And I feel like I'm wearing this cape today as well. But going back, I mean, those were some of the most painful times of my life, and it wouldn't end there. It was only beginning there. And a year later, my brother DJ, who is also my best friend, we were 15 months apart, and we were very, very close. He actually he would suffer from an asthma attack, and an asthma attack so bad that he basically, I was a senior in high school at this point, and we were going to meet after school, and it was, for those of you who in the U.S. know, it was, we had homecoming and a homecoming dance, and we were supposed to meet. And this was literally a year after my mom passed away. My father gets a call from the school saying that my brother DJ had collapsed. And they had to call the ambulance, and they found him, and it was a very traumatic experience because they found him foaming at the mouth, and he didn't have his inhaler with him, and he literally collapsed and died on the spot. And this was actually on my younger brother's 12th birthday. So it was on his 12th birthday. It was exactly a year after my mom had passed away. I mean, talk about heavy, heavy, heavy emotions. And, it was through the thickness of that sadness and the pain. And I don't know if, for those of you who've lost somebody suddenly, a sudden loss, you can't even imagine that. And so, to take you through all of those emotions, and then having an immigrant father who not only lost his wife, but also lost his son. Lots and lots of heavy personality, dynamics and emotional stuff and trauma that our family had to kind of navigate through at such a young age. And so that was really the beginning of, okay, let's understand how I can get my own father out of this deep depression. Because the worst fear for myself was, I only had 2 of my family members left. I had my youngest brother, who then now I was a caretaker for, my youngest brother Vinay, who actually was 12 years old at the time, and my father, who was really just kind of at his wit's end. He had suffered so much depression. He wasn't working at the time, so I was working 3 jobs, but it was me to kind of take care of, kind of everything. And that really began this whole idea of, okay, how can I switch my hat on? How can I switch my hats? How can I switch my capes to really get him and understand the personality that I can have to transform him into? So that's basically how it started, was my fascination with human dynamics was, okay, with all of this pain that we have, how can I actually fuel this and transform just the humans in front of me, my father and my youngest brother? I mean, that's all we had that was left. Then a few years would go by, but I would then lose my father to cancer. And so before I was 19, I was actually I was an orphan. I was an orphan, and I was raising my youngest brother, Vinay. And so really began my trajectory to become, from caretaker to healthcare provider. I channeled all of that energy into understanding how humans work, and I chose the profession of dentistry because, of course, all people fear dentists. And that was actually my first job as a teenager. While my mother was sick in the hospital, I was working as a receptionist, 15 years old, as a dental at a dental office. And for that reason, because so many people were so afraid, and I felt like, okay, with all of that pain that I had growing up, I can actually have these conversations with other people and help them kind of shift their state and change their emotion while they're going and getting, some of those procedures done. And so that's basically how it started. So I became a dentist. I became a cosmetic dentist. And so, it was through the course of my, a huge portion of my 20s while I was doing a lot of the healing for myself. But then I would come into another crossroads in my life where 6 years ago to date, actually, I found myself finally recognizing that, I was not the person that I wanted to be. I had been living this lie, and the lie was actually that I didn't really know myself. I was so busy for most of my early part of my adulthood taking care of everybody else that I actually forgot to take care of me. And I was really, doing this, becoming a doctor and becoming a healthcare provider because, yes, I saw my parents die to these emotionally, these really tumultuous diseases that I actually was in a very tumultuous relationship myself. And I was in an abusive marriage. And it really took me that time 6 years ago to look in the mirror and say, how did I let myself go? And how did I actually get here? I was a doctor. I had built and done all of these things and transcended every amount of success before I was 30. I had made $1 million in my first business as a doctor. But I just wasn't me. And you don't really get a lot of these discussions on personality types, empathy, compassion, all these things, and understanding human beings when you're in medical school or dental school. And so that was a really huge climactic point. And I know we've had a lot of climactic points, but that was really the lens where I finally said, I have to leave. I have to leave. I can't be living this lie anymore. And that's kind of when I literally left everything that I knew. I retired as a dentist. I left that practice. I left my relationship. I moved across the country. And I moved across the country to understand and learn and be around leaders. Because as healthcare providers, as healthcare leaders, we didn't really understand how human beings and human emotions, how that actually affects our decisions. And of course, I've seen it so viscerally in my own life, losing way more people than generally humans lose in our lifetime. I lost my entire family before I was 19 in such a short span. And so, through the next few years, I would then set across the world to really understand, okay, how do we make decisions as humans? And of course, yes, I was a psychology major as well, which is why I went into dentistry in the first place, because I thought it was such a challenge to work with some of the most toughest patients. I would work with patients that were mentally disabled, that would bite me or kick me when I was working on them. I had to have in like a little bit of a headlock when I was just actually working in their mouths. And so it was very interesting for me to kind of understand, well, what are the motives behind the way people work? And that was really my fascination of understanding, and perhaps even cathartic to understand, well, how did emotions really affect the stressors that affected the disease states in my own family, and my own parents, and my brother. And so, which led me to 45 different countries, and yes, interviewing hundreds and hundreds of leaders to get to a point of understanding the emotional wellness and emotional well-being, but really personality dynamics that affect leaders across the world, and how we can actually have more connection instead of disconnection in the world that we're living nowadays. And for all of you coaches, why it makes so much sense is because you're elevating human potential. And that's what led us to write and co-author the book of coaching together. And to really to speak at the stages of Mind Valley and EverCoach, and at AFest and at LeaderCast and at Google and all of these different arenas, because this is really one of the greatest problems now, is that majority of our of the diseases to date are stress-related diseases. And really it comes from not understanding human emotion, not understanding the way that personalities develop. And for you coaches, I'm so passionate about this today, and which is why we even wrote a book about this, is because understanding personalities, understanding human dynamics so profoundly affects the types of people that you will cause an impact and a breakthrough through, And I think the biggest problem, if we can go into that, the biggest problem that faces coaches today is, a lot of in the coaching industry and the consulting industry, is people only kind of draw a lot of times, and we've seen this at EverCoach, but people only draw from their own inferences, their own experience, right? Very initially in my coaching practice, when I was working with executive leaders, and this is a true story, when I was working with executive leaders, I had people, because I was so open about the taboos of being an Asian American and going through a divorce, and a lot of the family dynamics and cultural dynamics that occur when you go into a divorce, that I was having leaders reach out from different parts of the world, from Dubai, from India, from Thailand, and these were top level leaders and CEOs that were like, hey, I'm going through this situation, I'm gay, or I don't want to be in this marriage. And as coaches, you tend to then draw from your own experiences, and that's basically what I was doing initially, was helping them through those personality and those interrelational dynamics, because I just went through that. But when we have a deeper and a greater understanding of personalities, and the people that you come across, whether they're in the grocery store, whether they're in a networking event, whether they're amongst your family members or friend circle, is so profound, because it affects the level of depth, the level of breadth that you can actually take on in their own challenges, their own fears, their own anxieties, their own problems that they're facing, that they may or may not be willing to share with you just at a first glimpse. But it's so profound, because it really can elevate, human potential, and it's so needed, especially for you coaches, because that's exactly what you guys are all doing within the people that you're meeting on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. That was really, really powerful. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us as well. So we could also have an insight of where all of this is coming from, because it's powerful, all the experiences that you've had, because it has enabled you to really, truly understand human beings. So thank you for that. And of course, as coaches, you realize that a lot of us draw from experience. And there's nothing wrong with drawing from experience, but it's like saying there is a greater understanding of human beings, but we are only working with a tiny little part. Right? And what happens with that is, a lot of times, if you wonder why did your coaching didn't create an impact, if you wonder why is it that you had such a powerful conversation with somebody but they didn't end up enrolling, is because a lot of times when we're drawing from experience only, and we don't have an understanding of an overall human being, an overarching understanding of why we do what we do, what happens is our ability to be able to influence, our ability to be able to have a conversation, our ability to propose in a way that would really go into the style that the person really likes to receive information, process information, is not congruent to them, and so they completely do not, so they end up not taking action with you. They end up not really following through on the coaching session. They end up not really getting the insight, because the way they listen to information, where they understand information, the way they process information, the way their energy moves is different to the way you're communicating with them. And that's also some of the times you end up enrolling wrong kind of clients, because you end up enrolling somebody and then you realize the way you interact and the way they interact is completely different, right? So having an understanding, a greater understanding of human beings, having a greater understanding of how people do and what people do and the reason why they do it, allows you to really avoid all the frustration, the irritation, the feeling of that you can't create an impact, the feeling of why it's not going anywhere. All those feelings don't show up, or don't show up as often, because now you really understand why people are doing what they're doing. You understand why your clients are not really reacting to the coaching that you're doing, or getting the insight that you are hoping that they will have through the exercises that you've been doing with them. Because now you understand how they receive information, you understand how they process information, you understand how they really capture that information and how their energy moves, right? So it's very, very critical for us to really build this understanding. Now, Neeta, I know there's so much research that you've done, and there must be so many philosophers and psychologists and so forth that you've studied, but if I was to just go, where, like the most common, the most powerful work that you've seen, where does this work come from? What is the science behind it, or who are the people that have created this science around human psychology and how human beings operate?
So, well, yeah, just going back to, the Emotional Grip book, it took me 2 years to really, even gather a lot of the data to write the book. I was still, practicing as a cosmetic dentist as I was gathering all of the different information, going back to my, psychology books from college, because I was a psych major, but really aggregating all the different information because of this fascination that I had with, okay, and really that's how it started with, like, how do leaders really make decisions? And for me, it was how to be a better leader, right? But if we draw on kind of all of the inferences of the pioneers, the major players, I mean the heroes of the psychological development movement, we've got to go back to the big guys like Carl Jung's work. I mean, he was the pioneer of the psychological development. And Abraham Maslow, the one who talks about the actualization of human needs. That's been studied and repurposed for eons and eons and eons, and I talk about it a lot. But then you have also Sigmund Freud, some of where our ego comes in, and our superego and our id and all of those things. So why I love all of that so much is because those forefathers, in a way, they gave such an understanding of the way that we as humans, and to give us kind of a basic foundation of the way as us humans, how we make decisions, how, the basic elements of how all of us are connected in some way or another through the different types of personalities that we have, but that we can all really gain a lot of knowledge from. And it gives us a greater insight and depth to understanding, okay, this is the way, this kind of person is, or this is how I typically am. And this is not including any sort of external factors or family factors or outside upbringing, of course.
Cool, that's awesome. That sounds really powerful. So why don't we dive right into it? I know there's like 8 personalities that you have kind of found that are usually out there, and leaders and people that we coach, and give us a little bit of insight as to what are these personalities, what is it, so we can kind of grasp our head around that. And secondly, how do we know that they're that personality type?
Okay, yeah, we'll have some fun. You guys are ready for some fun? Cool. So let's get into some of the personalities. This is purely so that you can actually have a greater understanding. You might have some laughs as well. You might recognize that some of these types of personalities might be you, or maybe your significant other. Ajit and I aren't going to disclose who we are, but maybe you guys can actually figure out who we are. And also, you might actually notice this in your, they might be people that you already interact with. They're probably in your families, or even some of the clients that you did work with, or maybe are choosing to work with. Who knows? So the first person that I'm going to talk about is, we're going to call them the loyalists. Okay, so just by definition, the loyalists, they are super loyal. And what loyalists really are, they're dependable, they're warm, they're caring, they will always be there for you. Okay, they're never gonna let you go. Loyalists are also great if you have a team, because they are detail oriented, they get the job done. They also, if you have them in the family, they have family as number one. If you go to their house, they have pictures of their family all over the place. So that's loyalist. That's personality type number 1. Number 2, the sociable, nurturing motivators. Yes, write this down. The sociable, nurturing motivators. So who are they and what are they? Well, as you may have guessed, they are sociable. They're also super nurturing. They are putting everybody's needs ahead of theirs. Kind of like Mother Teresa, okay? They will make your dreams come true. And if you can guess, they probably get burnt out because they are constantly serving and giving and serving and giving. Personality type number 3. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the quiet lone rangers. Well, they like to be by themselves. They love facts, and they are super data driven. And now for somebody who I used to actually work a lot in the Silicon Valley startup world in San Francisco. So a lot of that type is actually there. A lot of the lone rangers, they tend to be in these, their engineering mindsets. They love processes, they love solving problems, but they need to have facts. Facts are everything to them. You leave them alone and have them solve a problem and you are golden. Personality type number 4. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the sweet, warm givers. Now, the reason why they are sweet, warm givers is that a lot of times you'll probably find them as they don't really like to be restricted. They like to have their freedom. They're kind of like free flow. They're creatives. A lot of times they're freelancers. So as coaches, you might have them as kind of your freelancers working on your graphics and creative items. They can also be copywriters. The key characteristics about them is that they love to serve. They hate routine. They hate schedules. So don't give them any of those. But they love to have fun. So if you think about it in contexts of, let's say, professions, maybe they're like massage therapists or they're creatives. These are the sweet, warm givers. You definitely want one on your team, but don't restrict them. Personality type number 5, the take charge leaders. And you'll probably know this because they like to control everything. They are usually the types that are going to be your leaders, your CEOs. They're probably going to be in managerial positions. And as a coach, if your business is large enough, you probably want to hire them because then you will get to have a lot of freedom in your world. These are the take charge leaders. They love control and they need to have their ideas coming from them. And so you need to give them time to actually come up with the idea because they're gonna love you for it. Next, who we have are the spotlight life lovers. Now, you probably know this person because this person actually, they like to be in the spotlight. They are going to be the center of attention. They are always going to have a group around them. They're very gregarious and very, very warm, and a lot of times they're funny. You might probably notice them as maybe being the funny person in the group. Number 7, the creative, empowered enthusiasts. Well, you can only guess this. A lot of times, this group, they tend to be entrepreneurs, they tend to be creatives, they tend to be creators. So they tend to work on a lot of different things all at the same time, but they're visionaries. They can see things from a mile away and they're super excited. They're very enthusiastic. So many of you might be this as a creative, empowered enthusiast because you probably have a lot of projects running around and a lot of times you're an entrepreneur. And one more thing about this personality type is they love and they crave innovation. So they will have a lot of different ideas. The last personality type, you have the analytical problem solvers. So this type, they are super scientific. They are like philosophers. They will analyze and basically break down all of these issues that you might have. But if you get into an argument with them, you've got to come ready with your facts because they will blow you out of the water. They're probably one of the personality types that will always argue, be super argumentative. They will have 3 pages of facts down and you probably won't win in an argument with them. Just saying.
That's awesome. To know these 8 personalities already, probably, like while Neeta was telling these 8 personalities, I guess you might be going, oh, okay, so that's my client, or that's my partner, or that's the other friend that I have. And that's a really good thing to spot because this already makes the first step of really knowing how to bring about a change is to know what is their personality type, what is it that they usually tend to do, what's their preference, how would they move, what's their preferred way of operating. So before we get into the next part of the training, what I would love for you to is take out your workbuk. I'm sure you have downloaded it. If not, at least use a pen and paper and just write it down as to what is your personality type. I mean, if you identify with one of these characteristics, which one do you identify most with? And secondly, what are the most common clients that you get? Which of the personality type of clients do you tend to usually get? So that way you will kind of have a ballpark of going, okay, that's the type of clients that I've been working with. So go ahead and take like 30 seconds and make a quick note of A, which personality type do you identify with out of these 8? And secondly, which personality type of your clients, or which personality type do you tend to have clients of? So that will give you an idea of how to really use or identify personality types, and then we can think about how to really bring about that change. Go ahead and write that down. Now they know, okay, these are the personality types, and they just need to know like a ballpark of what personality type it is, so they can kind of work with that and be able to really navigate that change with them. What we'll love to hear is some of the stories of how you have worked with different personality types, because you have worked with so many clients at this point. Some of the personality types that you might have worked with, and how did you use that personality type knowledge or that information that you had to bring about a change?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know in the beginning of this, when you were doing your amazing introduction of me, you were talking about 3 specific cases. And just by going through, these 8 personality types, we'll go over Sam's case. Now, Sam, who was, he was an entrepreneur, and he went from being depressed, like you said, had met with an accident, and he was a lone ranger. He built this multi-million-dollar company in Silicon Valley, and really loved processes. And as he was going through his depression, really stuck to the facts. And and I'm sure you guys have had clients like this. They're only stuck to their own facts about things, and they could be rigid about some things and not open, if that's the type of personality type in your client. Like for myself in Sam, this was the case. And so with Sam, I had to work with him to drop back into his heart, because he was overanalyzing everything, like Lone Rangers do, right? And, for him, because his style as a Lone Ranger, what they like to do is you have to give them time to self-assess. And so this is how we structured our coaching calls, was instead of me asking him a lot of questions during our call, I needed to actually give him the space. After understanding, how he makes these types of decisions and how he actually works as a human being, I needed to respect that he, being an introvert, he needed to have his time and really his questions. So I would give him, reflection assignments, before our next time we would speak or the next time we would meet in person. And literally he would come back with like 3 or 4 pages written out, articulated. He was one of those. Amazing and super brilliant, but that's just the way he processed. And what happens was, during our coaching sessions, we were able to kind of pinpoint, okay, some of the real anxieties that he had, in order to kind of move him from where he was at place A, being super depressed and being kind of carrying this cloud with him, to then actually coming out of it on the other side, and even actually writing, his book and raving about it, and now starting to speak about that. So, very, very incredible results because of the way that we were able to structure what best working environment was going to be for him. Because I know that if we were constantly going back and forth in a typical kind of coaching setup, it wouldn't be fruitful for him, because he needed really that extra time to process.
It's wonderful. That's wonderful. That shows really how you can adapt your coaching style by understanding the kind of person that you're working with. Right?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. There's no doubt, because once you actually have an idea, and you guys, this is really for your own benefit, because once you have this, you can start practicing this and saying, oh, okay, got it. If I know that, then maybe I can respond in this way with this person, because they'll connect with this more. I'm just going to share with you with Dr. Sheila. With Dr. Sheila's case, she was the sweet warm giver. I mean, she was the burnt out doctor that gave and gave and gave so much that she just didn't really know who she was. She didn't really know who she was as a person anymore. And so she was so, obviously she didn't really know what business building looked like. So when we were kind of working together, in helping her kind of plan and craft her transition and her next step or her next chapter and what she actually really wanted to do. She had a small son, and so what she really, really loved was she hated being on call. She hated constantly giving because she had been doing this for about 13 years now, and she was just ready. She wanted to spend more time and have the freedom and flexibility, but she didn't know what that looked like. Again, as a sweet, warm giver, a lot of times that personality type, they're only focused on the person that they're helping, and they're not thinking about the long vision. And so what we were able to do was craft her vision so she wouldn't be afraid of leaving her profession as a doctor, because of course that gave her the stability, that gave her the confidence, that gave her the knowing that she was going to be okay, especially because she had a young son she was looking after, of course. But having us draw a 3-month plan for her to kind of say, okay, in 3 years, what her vision would look like and what her ideal situation would look like, given her personality type, I mean, that changed everything for her. Then we were able to kind of reverse engineer all the steps, because just by knowing that she wasn't able to think, okay, long term, she can only think short term, but we were able to build her vision around it, was a complete game changer for her. And now she's, like you said, I mean, she's coaching moms who have small children and creating balance with that. So yeah, that was great. And she was a sweet, warm giver.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you so much for that. That's so much value in understanding how personalities can really influence how you can coach somebody, because you understand someone better is how you can help them better, because you know where they are at and why they are the way they are, and so you can actually move them to the place that they want to go. So absolutely phenomenal. So as the coach that is listening to this conversation, as the person who just got tremendous insight into how you can identify where your client is at by understanding their personality, and then also learning about a few case studies and how really you can operate as a coach to create greater impact with them, what is it that you're going to do about it? Go ahead and take out your workbook and write down what is it that you are going to do to bring about that transformation. What is it that you have learned today that is a big takeaway for you that will help you from here on as a coach, for you to be able to transform more and more lives. I want you to go ahead and make a quick note about that so we can capture this learning. What we learned today is a theory from work of Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Abraham Maslow, and Neeta's own research by studying hundreds upon hundreds of leaders across 50, 60 different countries that has given her tremendous insight and understanding how human beings operate, and how understanding where human beings are operating from allows us to show up more powerfully and impact our clients a lot more deeply. We also then understood the 8 personality types. We understood how people operate, why people operate the way they operate, how to really navigate, what are some of the key characteristics of these people, and to be able to go, oh, okay, that's that personality type, and this is how I can work with them. And you understood all of these personality types. Now, just understanding these personality types is worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, because once you know this, you know that you can show up for your client and be able to identify in just a few minutes how to transform their life or how to communicate with them effectively. You can show up in a networking event and in a few minutes identify, oh, that's that person and that's how I should talk to them. That empowers you to do more effective enrollment conversations. So what you've learned today doesn't only empower you to coach better, to transform lives, it also allows you to create more abundance in your life. Now you have a greater ability of enrolling clients that you really want, the personality types that you really want to work with. So this was powerful, powerful stuff. Now I know what we've done in this training has got you started. Now you're curious, you're excited, you want to understand how do these personalities work better, how to influence these personalities, how to really coach these personalities, how to even identify these personalities better, faster, so you have greater understanding of these human beings, and you don't have to feel frustrated then. You don't have to feel like, I walked out of a coaching conversation, I didn't enroll. I walked out of a coaching conversation and I wasn't able to impact. All those emotions can change, and those emotions can change because now you will have a better understanding of how human beings operate, how you process information, how you communicate, who do you want to work with. All of those answers are hidden within the human psychology, are hidden within human dynamics, which are hidden within your understanding of human beings. We want to offer you that understanding. We've created a unique program with this fantastic human being that has done years and years of research on how human beings operate. She has taken the learnings of philosophers and psychologists and human and enthusiasts of human study like Maslow, like Carl Jung, like Sigmund Freud, and put it all together in one unique program that gives you an advantage like never before. We're calling that program the Personality Advantage. The Personality Advantage is uniquely crafted by taking all these different learnings and bringing it together in context of coaching. How to take the understanding of all these different personality types, how to take the understanding of how people react and behave and change, and really take them together and use it to be able to create true transformations, to be able to create really empowering conversation, to be able to create really easy enrollment conversations. All of that have been put together after years and years of study, after years and years of testing, after years and years of cross-cultural experimentation for you to have easy access to using the Personality Advantage. The Personality Advantage on this webinar only is available for a very, very special price. You can look at that special discount that is available only and only on this webinar. So you have that available for the next 48 hours. If you take action now, you can go ahead and get the Personality Advantage at a unique price. There's a reason why we do this, and we have to negotiate with the authors real hard on this because we want people to take action. We want coaches to take action, and we at EverCoach want to support coaches who want to take action, who are ready to bring that change now. And I know you are ready to bring that change now. I know you want to impact those clients. I know you want to enroll much better. I know you're curious about human dynamics. This is why you became a coach. I know you want to bring that emotional change in your client's life. I know you want to bring that psychological change in your client's life, and we want to empower you. I know you're ready to make that decision right now, and so I want to offer you the Personality Advantage at a very unique price, only available while this training is live. Now, usually a program like this would cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars because remember, this program is not just a program. This program is decades of study of human psychology put together. This program is hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in Neeta's own learning across 50 different countries, hundreds of conversations, research of books, putting together one unique program that you can use to really create transformation. So there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been invested in researching this. To get access to this kind of information would probably cost you a couple of $1,000s, but that's not what you're getting the Personality Advantage for. We want to be able to empower coaches like yourselves, educators like yourself, to be able to bring about positive change in the world. You know, as Mind Valley, we are on a mission to change 1 billion lives. And on this mission, we know we can't really do it all by ourselves. And we don't want to do it all by ourselves. We want partners like you. We want change makers like you. We want coaches like you. We want educators like you to be in the journey with us, to take that message of saying, can we move the world in a positive direction? And if the answer for you is yes as well, we want you to be our partner. And we want to do this together, which is why we bring phenomenal programs that should usually cost thousands of dollars for just a few $100. And that is what is available to you today as Personality Advantage. Personality Advantage, or understanding personalities, and the way Neeta explains it, and she's done it for so many individuals. I am a living case study of this work. I am somebody who has experienced that change in my life because she could understand where I was at and she could bring me where I really needed to go. When I get the confirmation of you joining the Personality Advantage program, here is what you get. You get a 9-module program. The first module covers general understanding of human behavior. How do we operate as human beings? Why do we do what we do? How to really understand that, how to really wrap your head around it, and how to really use that in life. And then we go into each of the 8 personality types that we introduced you to today. And what happens then in each of those modules is we not only tell you, okay, here is the personality type, but we actually tell you, here is the personality type, here are some of the characteristics, here is how you can influence them, here is how you can coach them, here is how to have a conversation with them. So you not only learn about, okay, these are the personality types, but you actually learn how to coach these personality types. You also learn how to enroll these personality types. So you can, next time when you're having a conversation, you can identify a personality type, and if that's the personality type you want to enroll, you know how to lead that conversation. If you want to coach that personality type, or if they are already a client, you know how to really influence change. If you're feeling stuck with a client and you're not able to get through, you can see how to use their personality type to really create that influence and that change in their lives. So in the 10th bonus module that we have added so that you can even create greater change with your clients, we added a bonus module to help you really resolve conflict with these personality types. We know a lot of times we get into conversations with clients where there is a conflict to resolve. So we said, okay, let's support our coaches to be able to handle those types of conflicts when they're working with different personalities. How do you communicate with these types of personalities and different types of personalities? How do you really understand a greater understanding of even more types of personalities that are out there in the world? They're not as common, but at least you have a greater understanding of saying, okay, these are other personalities. So if they don't fall into the 8 categories, how do you really go and bring that understanding? And how do you really know what are the other types of personalities that are edge cases, or they are less in percentage around in the world based on the studies that we have done? We also tell you exactly the questions to ask to be able to understand a personality type. We also give you the exact tools that you can lead with when you are getting into a conversation and go, oh, okay, let me ask these few questions and I can identify what their type might be. So that way then you can create that influence with them, or that change with them, or that impact with them, right? Here's a special bonus. You already know about the phenomenal best-selling book that Dr. Neeta Bhushan wrote called Emotional Grit. And we're gonna give that to you absolutely for free so you can use the tools inside Emotional Grit that she has used with so many leaders in your coaching practice. You get the book Emotional Grit absolutely for free as a bonus, as a reward, as the quick action that you take today and get the personality advantage. You already know why we do what we do. We want to create change in 1 billion lives, and we want you as partners. It disheartens me to see coaches who are phenomenal. They are so heart-centered, they're so amazing, like yourself, and they are not able to bring about change. They're drawing from their experience, but they're not being able to really fully show up in the world. They're not able to fully influence in the world. They're getting disheartened because they're not able to close conversations and they are struggling to pay the bills, or they're disheartened because they know they really want to bring about that change in their client's life but are not able to influence it, or not able to create that conversation. They really want to coach their asses off, but they don't know how anymore, or how to really understand their clients better so they can actually coach their asses off. I know there's so many of you going into that state of saying, I've been running on E. I am trying to really serve people, but I don't know anymore. I've not been able to get the results that I want. And we want to support that journey for you. We don't want you to be in that place. We want you to get out of it. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we run EverCoach the way we run. We could be charging thousands upon thousands of dollars for the training programs that we offer, because honestly, that's the value of these programs. But we discuss it with our authors, and they're as heart-centered, and that's why we're so picky about everybody that we bring on the Mind Valley and the EverCoach platform, because we need to bring people together who can support all our journeys, or as many of us as possible. So that is why we do what we do. That's why we create these wonderful programs, and we are so honored for people like Neeta to take out the time and put in the energy to create these phenomenal programs, all their research, to give it away like the way they do. Thank you so much. We're honored to have you on the platform, and I'm so honored to have you join us in this journey at the Personality Advantage, so you too can bring that transformative change in your clients' lives, so you too can understand where your clients are at and where they need to go and how to really work with them, so you too don't feel disheartened when a coaching conversation doesn't come through, because you will understand why it didn't work if it didn't work, and if it worked, why did it work? As a final invitation, I want to offer you to join us in the Personality Advantage. It is going to be one of the most profound experiences that you'll be going through, because once you understand why we do what we do, once you understand why human beings are the way they are, there is no way to unlearn that. And that's powerful, because then you will know how to create that transformation in your client's life. Then you would know how to bring about that mind shift with your clients. Then you would know how and what they need to say yes to you. Then you would know at how you too can move the world forward in a positive direction. With that in mind, Neeta, any closing thoughts?
I just had so much fun today with you guys. Seriously, it's been such an honor. If I can leave you with one final thought, for you as leaders, as coaches, as change agents, as entrepreneurs, if there's one thing that you can actually do that will fundamentally, completely transform you as a coach and transform all of the relationships that you have, either as a coach, interpersonally, or you affecting lives of other people, it is understanding their lens, it's understanding their perspectives, it's understanding the perception of where they come from, because the world so desperately needs people like you right now. Because really what you're doing is you're elevating human potential. And that's where this comes from. This comes from your own awareness. But it starts by understanding the awareness of, yes, you first, but then the awareness of your potential clients, those people that you are day in and day out interacting with. This is my final closing thought to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I will see you inside the Personality Advantage. Ciao, ciao.